Hey, if you like Ultra Life today, and by the way, thanks for the explosive growth that we're experiencing, please do me a favor. Like, subscribe, and share. Hey everyone, welcome to Ultra Life Today. You know, I saw an interview a number of weeks back that actually got me excited and filled with hope for the first time in a while. You know, I've been into health since I was 16, and I just continue to see things that fragment our society and our health, pulling people apart. And when I watched this interview, I realized that many of the answers that I've been searching for are literally right under my feet. So we brought you a really interesting person from Oklahoma this week, a gentleman from Indigo Acres out in Guthrie, Oklahoma. His name's Kevin Marshall. We're going to talk about regenerative farming. We're going to talk about the difference between these types of foods that are grown the way Kevin grows them and the way other people grow them. And I think by the time you end this, you're going to be inspired. You're going to be filled with hope that we can actually do things to change a lot of the situations in our world that have been plaguing us. Kevin Marshall, Indigo Acres, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're so stoked. You know, I met you at a dinner with your wife that we were hosting for health coaches that do natural grocers. And I happened to be privileged to sit near both of you. And when I started hearing what you were doing, I just kind of put a place marker on that. And it's like, someday, and here we are.
Today's
and so,
that day.
yeah, I'm so excited about it. So, you know, I'm always interested in a bit of backstory. I remember that day sitting there eating dinner with you both and hearing how you basically exited a 35-year career in information technology. And what did you do? You went out and stuck your hands in the dirt and started doing something completely different. And I'm like, I've got to hear this story. So tell me how that actually transpired for you. Maybe there was something knocking on your heart for a long time, but I'm really intrigued to hear about that.
Well, it's interesting. People ask me that a lot, how to make that transition. And it wasn't that while I was working in this IT career, I had an inspiration to do something else. The bottom line, I got burnt out and I quit. I quit my job with absolutely nothing lined up. I had no plans to go into farming. After 35 years, I'd had a great career. I did everything in technology, security, infrastructure, programming. My last job, I was the CTO of a healthcare company in Oklahoma City. Had responsibilities, all the IT infrastructure for 3 hospitals, about 75 to 100 medical clinics, physical therapy, and became very stressful. The corporate world has changed. There's a lot of profit, and we could use the word greed.
Yeah, but a lot of captured industries, isn't there?
Yeah,
that changes everything.
And for a year, I tried to find another job because I thought it was the job, and all the doors closed on me for the first time. So I came home one day and told my wife, I got to quit my job. She said, okay. The marriage was challenged because of the stress.
Wow. How cool to have the support of your spouse.
Well, I think as he had her pack my bags and get out might have been.
There you go. There you go.
But we said, hey, you know, we're going to quit our job. We're going to have to sell the house. And we did. So we quit the job, gave notice, transitioned out of that company, left with 6 weeks notice, left on good terms. Then we sold our house and bought a little acreage out in the country with absolutely no plans.
This is incredible.
To start farming. I had been a gardener my whole life and had that as a passion. And we had some chickens out on this little acreage and started a little bigger garden. But I was like, what are we going to do for money? I kept continuing to look in a career change in IT. I kept trying to call companies. I got some phone interviews, but those doors just kept closing. Been in my free time, which I had a lot of it finally for the first time.
Right.
Started a large garden. And Robin finally said, you need to start selling your vegetables at the farmer's market. And my response, I think, was, are you on crack?
Right? This is not a business. And we're certainly not doing this for a living, right?
I know nothing about farming. And so I fought that for about a year and struggled and thought about it and prayed about it. And little by little, it's like, maybe I should try. And after a year, we jumped in and submitted an application to a farmer's market, got accepted, and spent way more money on signs and booths and tents than we actually had produce in the stand. But our first week, we sold $104 of produce, and I walked away stoked, knowing I was going to
say, I bet you felt like a king because you hadn't made that equation that this could enrich our lives personally by eating, but then it can actually enrich our lives, and we can be passionate about something.
People
I bet it was
valued-
hard to be passionate about IT for all those last years, especially.
For the last several years, and it was time to make a change. So I got the bug, and I'm going to do this the rest of my life. Now I got to go learn how to farm.
Yeah, no, you're not alone. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is the Apostle Paul, and he's wanting to go somewhere, and he's on a mission, and the doors keep closing on him. And finally, there's only one left, so he goes down that road, and the rest is history. You know, he remained in that place several years.
That's
so
kind of like
powerful.
Jonah and the whale. I fought and argued with God for a year. I'm like, no, that's not me. That's not me. And, the doors were closed, and finally I got thrown out on the beach, I guess.
That's fantastic.
And it's like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And my life has been great since.
So remind us what age you actually were when you made this transition.
So when I left the corporate world, I think I was about 51, and we started Indigo Acres when I was 53.
Okay. I just got to ask, because I didn't even think about it. Why Indigo Acres? Where'd the name come from?
Several years before we started the farm, we started learning about healthy living and food. We attended a seminar at our church by Jordan Rubin, the founder of Garden of Life, and we became passionate. My wife became a health coach, and during her early years, she started using the phrase "eat the rainbow every day," a variety of colors to make it healthy. And so when we started it, we wanted to incorporate that in. Indigo is one of the official colors of the rainbow.
It is indeed.
Orange acres or blue acres didn't make sense. Indigo acres.
And red, orange, yellow, and blue are very boring words. Indigo rolls off the tongue, and it's like, woo, get my attention.
So it has to do with the rainbow.
Yeah, okay. So you've told us a little bit about moving into this and how it just kind of found you, which I love those stories. Something found, my passions always have a tendency to find me. I don't end up finding them, and that keeps me energized, keeps me going back. In those early years of Indigo Acres, and how many years have you all been doing this?
This is our ninth season.
Ninth season, okay. In those early years, what are some things that just hit you in the face that were these bottlenecks and challenges that you're just like, did I make the right choice here? I'm curious. Every day?
Every day for about the first 4 years, 5 years, maybe year 6. There's been that. Really struggled the first couple of years, even in generating revenue. I think we did $9,000 of revenue in our first season, which just is technically we made a profit, but not enough to.
Yeah, so well below poverty level.
Well below poverty level.
Not for a couple.
And not enough to get
on.
paid. It was
That's
just paid some bills and continued doing it and struggled. But just had this drive in me to get through it. I mean, Robin once said, if anybody can do it, I can. She knew my drive, and having her support helped tremendously.
Absolutely.
But we got through some hard times, but I all of a sudden realized, especially in those first years, we struggled because I didn't have the knowledge, and we tried to find local farms to mentor us. And the type of system that I was doing just doesn't exist in Oklahoma. It was very popular in Europe and Canada and different parts of the U.S.
Yep.
And so Robin was like, go find somebody to mentor you. And I'm like, there is none. It's my job. My job is to learn it well, and to teach.
Oh, I love it. I love the fact that was already entering into your mind. Is how can I duplicate myself? Because one person can only do so much. So when you wake up of a morning, and let's say it's a work day, not a day where you get to come and hang out with me and talk, what does Kevin or what do Kevin and Robin do? What's a typical day of you walking through this life called Indigo Acres that you have expanded and now begun to teach other people about?
Well, over the years, it's changed significantly because early on I didn't know what I was doing, and it was just trying to do it. But it's become very structured. It's a business. Every day there's something scheduled because we have commitments and deliveries and orders and processes. We have wholesale deliveries that go out on Tuesday. So on Monday, the wholesale order is prepared, packaged, and labeled and ready to go. We also have to harvest on Monday to determine what we have to sell later in the week. So we update our website Monday evening. People can place our orders for pickups on Wednesday through Friday and so forth. And so, and then there's days that we plant, and there's days that we do weed management, and it's just a very structured approach. But day always starts with a walk in the gardens because things change very quickly in Oklahoma from pest problems to disease to maybe a broken irrigation line, and all of a sudden a quarter acre is flooded or something.
Oh, wow.
So I walk the property every morning with a cup of coffee and enjoy that time, and that kind of dictates the rest of the day.
So I know just enough to just barely be dangerous on these subjects. But when it comes to, I've gotten into this whole concept of, studying carnivore diets and studying the whole hunter-gatherer thing and studying the keto diets. And I've realized, that we have availability of everything, especially here in the United States. But you look at other cultures and you see that their eating of fruits and vegetables is a very seasonal thing that isn't, I've got a smorgasbord and I can just grab, all the blueberries and peaches and everything I want, and have all that available all the time. How do you go about, especially here in Oklahoma, choosing what actually goes into the ground for what season? Is there a real method to that madness?
There's a lot of factors that go in. The first thing we consider is the nutritional value. Indigo Acres was found on the principle of food as medicine.
Nice.
There's a lot of things we could grow that, such as corn or potatoes that are high in starches and peas and different things. We just don't grow those because we don't see those as medicine or food.
Much less healthy, maybe some sustenance, but that's about it.
But we also, it is a business as much as I would like to just grow this food.
Yeah, there are other people that want potatoes, isn't there?
Yeah, I've got 2 employees that on payroll day, they like the money to be in their account.
Of course.
They like to get paid. So we also have to look at the profitability. We're a very small farm. People are very surprised.
How many acres?
Our total property is 2.5, but we only grow on about 1 acre.
Oh, nice.
And we grow a lot of food. Well into this year, we're going to do well over into the 6 digits on our gross sales on 1 acre.
Outstanding.
And so part of what we grow is stuff that can be a lot of food grown in a small amount of space. Lettuce is our number 1 cash crop. And that surprises a lot of people in Oklahoma because it's hard to grow in Oklahoma. Beets, carrots. You notice I haven't mentioned tomatoes. People think tomatoes is the number 1 crop. It is for other farms. But from a competition standpoint, when I was at a farmer's market, everybody had tomatoes. If you bring 5,000 pounds of tomatoes and you only sell 2,000 pounds, you then get a nice food fight later in the day with 3,000 pounds of tomatoes.
Yep.
And you don't get paid. So
I love you bringing up the business strategy of what you've had to do because, we have to survive, right? You have to go ahead and make money and pay your people.
Absolutely.
You've got, how many people total are working with you now on this little kind of 1 acre ecosystem you've created?
I've got 2 full-time employees and then a part-time guy that comes in on an as-need seasonal basis. And we also have a couple of volunteers that come out and work for food.
See, I was shocked when a friend of mine began to tell me almost 20 years ago that you could actually make a uniquely profitable ecosystem on an acre of land, and that if that principle of doing that, replicating that, and inspiring other people to do the same thing, that people would literally be able to not only drop out of the system, they'd be able to eat healthy. They could even exchange crops with other people. So we're back to the days of barter now and stuff. And he painted this incredible picture, and I'm just so finally glad to meet somebody that's actually rolled up their sleeves and is doing it. It's super exciting. So, so some key crops: beets, carrots, lettuce, varieties of lettuce, or just
We grow a few varieties of head lettuces, a romaine lettuce, and we have a leaf lettuce and also a red romaine lettuce.
Yeah,
but we also do a lettuce mix, which changes from season to season. Some things don't grow well in the summer. We mix that variety as the seasons change, so it blends throughout the season.
Have there been any times in these years that you've been doing this that you've got these core products that you just told me about? Has there ever been something new that came along that you're like, I just got to try that. I've got to see if I can grow that and see if that's going to be something that's going to fit well into our business strategy?
We experiment each year with some new stuff.
Give me an example,
Fortunately, early on, in my learning curve, I met a national consultant guy named Michael Kilpatrick that's been to Oklahoma and came to our farm once.
Nice.
And he mentioned never experiment with more than 5%. Don't go out and put a third of your stuff in a particular crop that you don't know will grow in your environment or be able to sell in your environment. But one of the products that we then did add on a very small scale early on is this little thing called Kohrabi.
I don't even know if I know what that is.
Nobody knows what it is.
I think I probably read it, and Adam Payne's not here today. He's out enjoying the mountains in Colorado with his kids and wife. I'm so happy he is. But he will bring these things from the Asian market in to eat, and I've not only never heard of them. They're unpronounceable, and he'll make me taste them. Tell me what Kohrabi is.
So Kohrabi is a brassica. It's related to the cabbage and
broccoli, things like that.
Those things. So it actually actually has cancer-fighting properties within
Nice.
it, so it's very healthy. But it's this bulb thing with stems that come up. My wife used to call it the vegetable from outer space because it had these antennas.
Nice.
But you peel it back. You can eat it raw. We put it in salads. And initially, nobody knew what it was, but they would come by our booth and go, "What is that?" We joke about it, and we give them a sample, and they're like, "That's good." And they come back. Now we have people going, "Hey, when's the broccoli going or the Kohrabi going to be ready?" So
Way cool.
we don't make a lot of money on it, but we do add it because it brings our customers in.
I was actually going to say that's a pretty cool hook.
Yeah, it is.
When you have something up there that they've never even read before, and you're like, "Hey, you need to try this." That's a great idea. So I've heard the word now. It's been the buzzword that is used throughout the corporate world, sustainable. And when I watched this documentary, or first of all, saw this interview and then watched the documentary initially called Kiss the Ground, I was like, forget sustainable. Let's talk regenerative. This is a whole different planet and world that I was unfamiliar with. Tell me, describe for us what this concept maybe of sustainable is, which certainly can carry over a little bit into regenerative, but it's a whole new ballgame when you're doing regenerative. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the first kind of the difference of the two, sustainable is exactly that, sustaining. A lot of the conventional agriculture that we have is destroying. It's going in a negative direction. It destroys the soil, depletes the soil nutrients, and goes a different way. So sustaining is creating an ecosystem that sustains it and keeps it from degrading. And that's a good thing. And it could be energy consumption, maybe using solar on your farm to reduce inputs in the world. Regenerative is going beyond sustainability. It's taking the soil and making it better, regenerating it where it's already been depleted, adding the nutrients back through cover cropping or composting or there's different methods for different type of farms that actually add enough implements that the soil continues to improve on its own.
So my family actually had a wheat farm forever. I didn't get raised on it. We had people that owned several farms, and they would own their own, but then they would go ahead and plant and work our farm as well. When you've got somebody doing that, and this is what is so strange, when you see the interviews and some of these documentaries out there, you have individuals, Kevin, that you'd think a 50 or 60 or 70-year-old farmer would remember the time when they actually were farming on real soil. And yet, as you see these people that are mentoring these farmers in these local community meetings, and you find out that they're like, yeah, I think my great-grandfather did that, but that's not anything we've done for several generations now. It's all about laying down the chemicals and all that kind of stuff. What are the reasons that, there's obvious, I'm a very non-chemical guy. There's obvious reasons not to use chemicals, but what really drives the health of the soil by not using chemicals? Because you mentioned something about saying, Josh Bellieu paraphrase is there's soil and then there's real soil. And you got a lot of fake soil out there that's not really doing anything but degenerating. And what you're doing is turning something around that is regenerating something that is necessary for our environment, our ecosystem, our planet. So, yeah, tell me about the whole what's happening when you're taking chemicals out. Maybe how long does it take somebody? I think in the past when conventional farmers would see this kind of stuff, they would just go, we can't ever turn the corner. We're relying on government subsidies. We can't do any of this stuff. So what do? Give me a little snapshot before we move into our next segment here of why you don't use chemicals and what magical happens when you stop using them.
So you said soil versus good soil. We call it dirt versus good soil.
Okay.
Dirt is
Nice.
just dirt. It's dead.
Yeah.
It's just powder. It's dust. Think of it that way.
Okay.
Soil is an ecosystem. If you took a shovel and dug down in there and got a microscope and looked into it, you're going to see fungi and bacteria and all kinds of living creatures. It's said in healthy soil, not dirt, in one handful of healthy soil, you can have anywhere from 1 to 7 billion
With a B.
living
Wow.
organisms. And so when you use chemicals, it starts destroying that life. That life dies. When you till it, it dies. So what we're doing is creating an ecosystem by not adding chemicals and killing it and not adding stuff. What happens to the plants? This fungi goes over here, 6-7 feet away from my plant, grabs some nutrients that's not being used, and creates this chain towards the plant's roots. And the roots releases these carbohydrates or starches to feed the fungi, and the fungi in turn feeds the plants. So this ecosystem is a healthier environment for the plants to live.
Nice. You've been listening to Kevin Marshall of Indigo Acres. If you want to reach out and find more about what they do, indigoacresok.com. This is Ultralife Today. If you enjoy what we're doing, and by the way, we just had 1 million views of one of our shorts recently. Thank you. Like, subscribe, share. Keep doing what you're doing. Thanks.